First things first, welcome to CNN. I'm your host, Kirk Kennedy. Let's go in. On this channel, we take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. Expose them. Oh, Sherman. You know, there was I'm a mafia movie guy. And there was a series called The Godfather. And they were in the 70s, part 1 and part 2. I think part 3 came like 30 years later in the 90s. And there was this iconic scene where the then Godfather, who was Al Pacino, Michael Corleone, he was older. He was talking to his sister and someone else in the kitchen. And he had heard that there was a lot of stuff going on that now he needs to come out of sort of Godfather retirement and get in. And he said, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I actually used that clip at the beginning of my album C4 in 2017. Boy, just when you think it's over and done, we get reminded of the reality. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. So, bruh, let's have this conversation. Here's the first thing we got to talk about. We're still dealing with this reality. Still dealing with this reality. You know what? My software upgraded, so like the strip is really big. It's like, man, I feel like I'm, like it says the Goodyear blimp, and I'm just watching that joint. A woman still. Let me explain to you what I mean. This is, you know, if the Lord, the world must be, you know, there were times when Jesus said he was marveled at their unbelief, right? He marveled. I mean, Jesus genuinely, because he was fully human being, he did not allow himself to be God, to experience, to have the fullness of his attributes of God. He did not. He denied himself sometimes knowing the future, how people will respond, what they were thinking, all of it. And there were times that Jesus, it said he marveled at their lack of faith. He was shocked. He was like, are you serious? You really think this way after what you just saw me do? It's one of my favorite verses, a couple of them in the Gospels, because it's just, wow, God was just like, wow, humanity is so wild that even after doing this, healing a man that was born blind who's 40 years old, they still don't believe. Or the disciples, you still don't believe. Well, I think we live in the twilight zone. And it's really interesting from a human perspective, but from a spiritual perspective, it makes total sense. But here's what I'm talking about. Let's get to, what are you talking about, Pastor Kirk? Let's find out. Let's watch some of this video and let's listen ahead to see what happens. This was recently. Here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since you bring it up, why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
There are many women that can get pregnant.
So this is the point. This is the point where you're watching a movie and it's been a regular movie, and then all of a sudden the character looks at the camera and breaks the fourth wall. I digress. Let's continue.
Pregnant, I do take care of people that don't identify as women.
Can men get pregnant?
again, as I'm saying.
Let me just remind you, you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I
agree.
think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes, no questions like this are a political tool. And
No, yes, no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence. And I'm asking you, the United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert. And you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor, and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity.
Still, like, okay, on one level, I understand her hesitation, because when you promote something and believe something and you stand on that, you have to stay on that. I get it. She's basically processing a biological question psychologically. So he's asking biologically, and she's saying, well, I have people, essentially what she's trying to say is, I have biological women that identify as a man, and therefore I am to treat them like a man, and those biological women who identify as a man get pregnant. But she also knows the reality is that it can't happen. It's biologically impossible. We are not defined by our psychological makeup, and this is why he appeals to the science. This has nothing to do with who you vote for or about being gracious and loving towards people. This has to just do with just truth. And this is a doctor who was testifying before Congress and will not say men cannot get pregnant. We're going somewhere with this. Stay with me. We're going somewhere. But let's continue.
As a medical professional and as a scientist, can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating
This is
male
extraordinary.
female with.
No, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things. There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
What you were talking about is biological.
You're not going to answer my question. It sounds like.
Biological males.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be polarized and push.
I'm not trying to be polarized.
So you understand what she's talking about is that the question is polarizing because it deals with her having to say something that would outrage a particular segment of society. This is America. Childish Gambino.
I'm trying to ask, I think it is extraordinary that we are here in a hearing about science and about women. And for the record, it's women who get pregnant, not men. We are here about the safety of women and science that shows that this abortion drug causes adverse health events in 11% of cases. That's 22 times greater than the FDA label, another fact you haven't acknowledged, and yet you won't even acknowledge the basic reality that biological men don't get pregnant. There's a difference between biological men and biological women. I don't know how we can take you seriously and your claims to be a person of science if you won't level with this on this basic issue. I thought we were past all of this, frankly. I can't believe we're still here talking about this.
I am a person of science, and I'm also someone here who's here to represent the complex experiences of my patients. And I don't think polarized language or questions serve that goal. I don't think they serve the American people.
It is not polarizing to say that there is a scientific difference between men and women. And I want this to be clear and for the record. It is not polarizing to say that women are a biological reality and should be treated and protected as such. That is not polarizing. That is truth. It is also, by the way, the United States Constitution, which offers unique protections to women in a variety of circumstances as women. And your refusal to recognize women as women and men as men is deeply corrosive to science, to public trust, and yes, to constitutional protections for women as women. And I think it's extraordinary that you would sit here and advance a political agenda that has been thoroughly discredited and rejected by the American people in this forum. And
okay. So we've been here before. You had the What is a Woman documentary by Matt Walsh of Daily Wire. It was a crazy documentary. I know that our culture still has that, but there's a deeper issue here. There's two issues. I'm sure you caught them because you all are sharp people. The first issue was the reality of the cultural moment that we're still in. Like, once there's a point where when you get to a certain point, you can't go back from that point. Once people accept a certain truth, it's very challenging to go back. Now you think, well, why are we watching this? Why are we talking? We know this. Well, because this still has, we have to process the world through what we believe, where we believe we're headed towards, right? We're headed towards the imminent return of Jesus Christ. And depending on your eschatology, then you're going to have something that you think is going to happen to bring about the return of Christ. And if you, the way you process the book of Revelation per se, you will look at these things and wonder where are we, what's happening in all of this. Now, I'm not here to point at, look at Revelation 9 and it says this, but I do think that, we know that in Revelation 12 that the enemy has been cast down to heaven and is on a rampage, right? And when you look at and if Jesus Christ is truth and the word is truth, Jesus said in John 17:17, sanctify them by the truth, your word is truth, right? If the truth, which is his word, which has a designation, Jesus said it a couple of times when God created me, made them male and female. Knowing all psychological impulses, all the things, the enemy work, all of it. What it does is it sets us up for a greater catastrophe. Now we think, well, we know all this, we've heard this before, but it's coming to a clash. It's coming to a real serious clash, and we see it happening in culture. But that's not what there's a deeper issue here. I'm going to get to this in a second. Stay with me. There's a deeper issue. But I just wanted to show you, like, wow, this is still a functioning reality. The second part about this video, and I cut it off right before he said this particular phrase, but he alluded to the point. He said a political ideology, right? Basically, he's a conservative, Josh Howerton. I don't agree with some of the things he said recently. This isn't about me, a political statement. This is just about truth. I believe in truth, and I believe there are differences between men and women, and not just what you psychologically, your psychological profile. I don't agree with any politics in and of themselves, even though I think there are policies and things that are good. But he's a conservative, and he said that this is a political agenda. Here's another reason why that's dangerous. On one level, yes. He's trying to say, and he does allude to, this is the left. This is the Democratic position. He says, you are bringing politics into a discussion that's scientific. And he's saying it's the left, it's the left, it's the left. Here's the, and on one level, I understand why he's saying it. But let me explain to you why this is dangerous. There's two levels of why this is dangerous. Let me give you the first, and the second I'm going to give you at the end. Here's the first level of why this is dangerous. I don't know what Josh Howerton professes to believe. If I'm not mistaken, I think he professes to be a believer. Here's the problem. here's what the word says. Let me go here. It says this. This is Ephesians 6. This is a pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. This is a drum I'm going to keep hitting. It says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Listen, if you are a believer in Jesus Christ, you don't have to like me, you don't got to follow me, but if you stumbled across this video, let me just tell you this. You are living in a time, we are living in a time where one of the strategies of the enemy is to make us think this is a battle between flesh and blood. While I understand Josh, I think Howerton's concern, this is not a political thing. Now, if he's not a believer, then he's going to think that way. But if you're a believer, there's a danger in thinking this is a position of the left, because we do not wrestle with flesh and blood. If this was the type of video I was doing today, I would take you back to Mesopotamian, ancient Near Eastern religions, where some of the gods of the Canaanites and the Amorites were gods that were transgender. Some of their gods were men and women together, and they would interact in ways that they created humanity from their. So this is an age-old demonic reality. This is not a political position of the left. This idea is an age-old demonic reality. This is the reality. So again, I'm not going to give you all those details, but I want to say that we're living in a culture where if you, as a believer, if you forget that we do not wrestle with flesh and blood, you will succumb to the scheme of the devil and will largely fall victim to what I think is the most important thing that I want to show in this video. But let's move on to the next story, because I'm an equal opportunity offender. Now, because the conservatives have been in office and all of that, I've been pushing back against them. This was a pushback against what you would consider a leftist position, even though I think it's deeper than that. I don't think it's just conservative or liberal. There's a deeper thing going on. And as a believer, if we forget for a moment that this is not just a flesh and blood, it's not a political issue, it's not a law enforcement issue, it's deeper. There's something we have to think, okay, God, why are you exposing this? Here are the two questions I always ask. Lord, what are you trying to show us by letting this happen? I believe that God is sovereign. I have a phrase that I jokingly call ironic providence. I believe God is sovereign. So what are you trying to show us by letting us see this? Number one. And then I'm always thinking, too, how is the enemy trying to exploit us? How's he trying to exploit the believer into doubting God or questioning God, all of it? And there's one way that Jesus said that I think flies over a lot of people's heads, that the enemy knows this is what he's doing. This is his main strategy. And I'm going to show this to you from the most recent, not the woman Renee Good, who I talked about in my last video, but there was another woman, we're going to watch this video, who interacted with ICE and had a very serious situation happen. We're going to watch this video, and then I want to show you what I'm talking about. There's something deeper than can men get pregnant and what I'm about to show you. And we're going to get to that. We do not wrestle with flesh and blood. That's the discernment. That's what we know. That's the war. But what's trying to happen? What's the enemy trying to get us to do? Well, to do that, we got to be honest about ICE. We got to be honest about ICE, the organization. Let's watch this video, and then let's talk about it. By the way, there's a lot of profanity in this. Cover your kids' ears if they're watching. But let's watch this video.
Hey, go that way. Hey, back the fuck up. Sidewalk. Force is not law. Force is not law. You are not following the law. Police before I'm disabled, so I can go to the doctor up there. That's why I didn't Just make you feel strong. Yeah, man. This is your duty. Why don't you help that woman? Help that woman. Why don't you help someone? All you do is hurt. All you do is hurt. She's trying to drag down this.
All right, you may have heard about this and seen this story. You all know I'm an equal opportunity offender. So let's just break this down from a balanced perspective, which I try to do because that's just how I see the world. The headlines are saying that ICE agents pulling people out of their cars, protest out of their cars and so forth. And this woman is being branded as similar to like Renee Good, who was unalived by an ICE agent, who the right is saying she was a terrorist trying to run him over. He was in his right. And the left is saying, no, they're going too far. Okay, let's process this. We can't take what happened there and bring it here and say, oh, it's the same thing. All right. So let's process it if you just watch this video. I'm not going to run it back. So if you want to watch it, you have to watch the video again and so forth. But let's just process what happened. When we pull up, when the video starts, the lady is in her car. You can hear tons of cars honking their horns. Meet, 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 meet. Everyone's honking their horns, all right? She's in the way, okay? ICE agents are like, get out. There's a lot of them, right? So I think this is also in Minnesota. There's a lot of them, right? Honking their horns. They're telling her, get out of the way, get out of the way, right? She's arguing and cussing at the ICE agent. And then at one point does this thing like flipping him off with her hands, right? And then, I mean, and she seems like she's arguing with him, the best of them. This guy's doing this, right? Then they say, go, move, move. So she drives up a little bit, like, and then stops and looks back and starts yelling at the ICE agent again, cussing at him as well, right? And then they keep telling her, go, 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 go. Finally, they get fed up. They start, one officer on the other side breaks the window, and then they're all trying to pull out of the car. And then she starts saying, oh, I'm autistic. I didn't understand. I was trying to go to my doctor. That's why I didn't go there. I'm autistic and all of that. And then they pull her out and they drag her away and put the things on her back, and everyone's upset. And I understand why. But we have to be honest about ICE in a couple different ways, all right? The first thing we have to be honest about is this scene. Now, I don't know if it's been released what the lady's medical condition is, if she's really autistic. I don't know. Autism is a spectrum. And as a dad with a son who has autism, it's a spectrum. My son could not have done what she just did. He couldn't have seemingly had a conversation with the police like that, and that much noise, beeping, cussing, all this stuff. He would have not been able to do that. He would have shut down and all. Now, it's a spectrum. She may be on the other end of the spectrum where she's highly functional. My son is more middle to lower on the spectrum. She didn't look like she had autism to me, but she said, I'm autistic. Here's the reality. You can say ICE was overreacted and they have a reputation now. But man, this woman was in the way. They asked her 50 ways from Sunday to move. Cars were beeping. Oh, she was in the way. Another guy who was wearing a mask went up and said, don't you touch her. So she's looking at him like, yeah, look, this guy's telling me. All this is happening, right? Then she moves up like she could just drive away. Go to your doctor's appointment. Get out of the way. And then she stops and gets aggressive with them again. And then they tell her to move again. She move again, and she doesn't do it. And then they've had it. And now they snap and they grab her. I'm going to be honest. This is not, she wasn't a victim in this situation. You can disagree with me all you want. You can unfollow all that. She wasn't a victim. She was foolish. And I don't know why people don't get this. You know, back in the 60s, during the civil rights era, when you could protest on some level, you could march, you could do these things, and sometimes you would get beaten and stuff still, but there was a degree you could protest and that was it. I don't think people really understand the climate that we're in today. Like, do you honestly think, let's be clear. I'm going to prove this in a second. Let me make this statement. Listen, these ICE officers, they're just human beings, and they've been given an authority that a lot of law enforcement hasn't been given in a long time. Ever since the Patriot Act after 9/11, these ICE officers have been, these agents have been given an authority by Trump and Vice President. They're basically untouchable. So you got these guys in a hostile situation that you're cursing at, and they're telling you to move, and you don't go. And then when you do go, you start cursing at them again. What do you think is going to happen? Like, let's be honest, you and I, me and you, probably level-headed, chill people. But if someone keeps coming at you, at some point, you just had enough. Whether it's sinful or not, it's just real. You've just had enough. Why don't people just say, hey, you know what? I disagree with ICE, but I'm not going to block traffic and make a scene to make a point. And then when they react, now I'm crying foul. Should they have snatched out of the car like that? Probably not. In fact, I'm going to show you something to prove that they shouldn't have. But I'm going to be honest. I don't look at this lady as, man, ICE is wilding. Now, with all I said, let's just watch a little bit of the video again. You can feel free to disagree. But look at this situation. Look at this. Let's be clear from what we know of and think about ICE. They were relatively patient for this situation from my vantage point. Could be wrong. I'm starting the video, but let's watch a little bit of this again. And you tell me if I'm wrong here. Look at this. Here we go. Did you see the drive away? She's all cussing and flips them off. You need to do ooh. And then the guy says, don't touch her. And then they go after him. And then she makes this mean face and then drives away. She drives like 5 feet and then she stops. And now she's right here again. Man, why did you stop? Like, why did you stop? I'm sorry. They just shot a woman in the face not a couple of days ago. It went viral. Why? And she was white. She was white with blonde hair. You're not, man, you got to live in the reality, not live in how you feel. You got to live in reality, right? This woman stopped, and then look what happens.
Hey, go that way. Hey, back the fuck up. Sidewalk.
Look at the officer pointing. He's still telling her to go. I don't know what you think about ICE. I don't even care because this is my video. But look, he's still telling her to go. He's telling her, go, get out of the way. This woman has had multiple chances and she does not do it.
Not law. Force is not law. You are not following the law.
Again, autism is a spectrum. It's a spectrum. She probably is more high functioning than my son, but she's not engaging like something's wrong. She's cussing them out. She's telling them, stay away from me. You're going to the doctors. Go. Now, I don't know her mental state. They might come out and be like, she's this, but she looks highly functioning in this moment. You cannot play with these people. You cannot play with these people. This is not the time to be doing that. Let me tell you why I'm saying this. There's a deeper, we're about to get to the deeper issue here, all right? There's a deeper issue here, okay? Let me tell you why I'm saying this. Now, let me push back on the other side first. Let me tell you why ICE was wrong. Listen to this right here. This is from the Department of Homeland Security, all right? This is Department of Homeland Security. These are guidelines specifically for ICE agents. Let's look at this. Let's look what it says. Leaked and summarized DHS legal refreshers given to ICE agents in Minnesota explain that certain conduct by civilians is not a violation of law and does not justify use of force by ICE or other DHS officers. Reported examples of conduct that DHS told agents is lawful. So citizens are allowed to do these things and you can't do anything about them. Is lawful include this: using profanity at agents or telling them to go expletive themselves. The DHS, Department of Homeland Security, is telling ICE agents in Minnesota that's not unlawful for them to cuss you out. Right? Second, flipping off, yelling at, or arguing with agents. They're saying the Department of Homeland Security is saying that's not unlawful. That's not against the law for them to do that to you. Filming or photographing agents in public is not against the law. Refusing to cooperate with agents' demands or disobeying commands, so long as it is passive, no physical resistance, is not against the law, right? So this is all legal speech, recording, passive non-compliance is not against the law. Now, where it is unlawful is physical resistance, shoving, grabbing, or attacking agents. Fighting words or true threats of violence toward officers can be criminal even without physical contact. Interference that actually obstructs or endangers an operation. For example, physically blocking a doorway being lawfully ordered to move can trigger charges. Okay, here's what I'm trying to say. Here's where ICE was wrong. There were things that ICE is on a rampage. I'm going to tell you why I think they're on a rampage. There are two reasons why they're on a rampage. ICE is on a rampage. And I think law enforcement in general, let's just be honest, right? I said this a lot when it was mostly, when it seemed like when there was a lot of videos of Black people getting shot and killed by police and stuff like that, right? Here's the reality. You're giving people an authority over humanity. And they have an authority to do a lot of things. One, and the most severe, is they have been given authority by the state to take someone's life, especially if they feel threatened. They have a firearm. They have a deadly weapon, whether the other person does or not. They have a deadly weapon every time they pull you over. They've been given the authority based on their judgment and a criteria where the goalposts move to arrest you, physically harm you, take your life, de-escalate, give you a ticket, let the situation go. In a heightened environment like ours, a real heightened, aggressive society, law enforcement, especially with Trump giving them the green light, they're just not going for it. So even though they're breaking their own code from what the Department of Homeland Security has said, you have to know the people that you're dealing with. You have to know the culture. You can't just be like, well, this is again, they don't care about your rights in that moment. And they obviously don't care that they're being filmed because people are still not getting any consequences after being filmed and doing things that the rest of us think are insane. DHS was wrong because they got offended at this woman, but that woman was wrong too. Listen, if you're watching, it doesn't matter if you agree with them or not, right? It doesn't matter who you voted for. Like, just get out of harm's way, fam. Like, these people are not playing. And the enemy is at work. He's at work. This is not a flesh and blood issue. The anger and vitriol, the arrogance sometimes that comes with being in that, to having that position. It's a lot. They asked these guys, look, I said this in my last video. The guy who shot Renee Good, J.D. Vance said on national television, well, he had been run over by a car and was out in weeks and stitches, then he shouldn't have been back on the force then. Like, they put these people back on the force and like there's, and it's like, hey, listen, you might need some time off. If you got to take you got maternity leave because you had a baby, take some PTSD leave, fam. Like, that doesn't happen. I know because I have friends that are police officers and they don't really get that. We expect them to have no emotions, complete self-control, and then it's just not realistic. It's not realistic. ICE was wrong because they went against their own code, but this lady was wilding. Get out of the way, fam. If you're a believer, do not think for a moment that you are doing a good thing by protesting in a way that puts you in harm's way. Now, sometimes they just are on one. Now, let me tell you why I'm also saying this, right? There was an article that went viral. We're going to read some excerpts of this. This is why I'm telling you this about ICE. Here's the other problem with ICE. There's an article that went viral by a Slate author. Her name is Laura Jadid, all right? Let me read this. This is a crazy joint. I read this article today. Laura Jadid's article describes how she was effectively hired as an ICE deportation officer after an extremely minimal and error-filled recruitment process, which she argues shows how little the agency actually knows about who it is arming and sending into the field. Jadid, a veteran and openly anti-ICE journalist, decides to test how hard is it to get hired by ICE by going undercover at an ICE career fair in Texas in August 2025. She assumes her public criticism of Trump and ICE, plus her online footprint, will make her an obviously bad candidate if the agency is doing any real vetting. At the career fair, the recruiters advertise on-the-spot hiring and big signing bonuses for deportation officer roles, emphasizing how quickly people can get badges and guns. She has a brief interview around 6 minutes where the recruiter focuses almost entirely on her military background and barely asks about her post-military work, political views, or anything that might raise red flags. Shortly after, she receives an email describing a tentative offer and asking her to complete a standard pre-employment task, background check forms, ID info, and a domestic violence affidavit plus a drug test. She deliberately does not complete the paperwork. And according to her account, even fails the drug test, yet the USA Jobs /ICE portal later shows her as having passed a background check and a fitness test as entered on duty with a start date and position listed as a deportation officer. Fam, do you realize what's going on? So this lady who had a military background, did 2 tours in Afghanistan, she said she was anti-Trump, anti-ICE. If they just would have Googled her name, they would have saw her articles and posts and all of that. She said, I was given the green after deliberately not doing the paperwork and failing a drug test. We know that when Trump came into office, there were 10,000 ICE agents. In 2025, 12,000 more people became ICE agents. So that small amount, but causing a lot of havoc. Think about this for a second. They are hiring anyone, people who are not qualified to do this. People who may be angry, who may be offended, who they're not qualified. And this is the problem with anyone in authority. Like as a pastor, right? There are certain qualifications I have to meet in order to be one and maintain pastoral ministry. I don't have the luxury to get into a pornography addiction and then say, oh, I just struggle with lust. Not in my position. I don't have that luxury. They're like, you got to step down for a while. Because but there doesn't seem to be that way in a lot of law enforcement, especially in ICE. Now, let's assume that lady is right. That's a scary reality. Because anyone, you could be a white nationalist, you could be anyone, and no wonder these guys, and then Trump is giving you, then you don't have to show your face, which is law enforcement has to, if you get arrested and you say, what's your name and what's your badge number, they have to give it to you. These people, this is an insane reality. This is the culture we live in. Why am I saying all of this? I'm just giving you facts that appear to be true. Giving you observations because there's a deeper problem. I brought to you Ephesians 6. We don't wrestle with flesh, but this is spiritual warfare problem. What we're seeing and what we're reacting to has serious, significant consequences for our own souls. This spiritual warfare problem. This is not what you think it is. This is not Trump being a jerk and ICE being those things can be true depending on your perspective. But there's a deeper thing. This is not flesh and blood. What the enemy wants us to do is think this is flesh and blood. And so we get offended at the people who voted for the people who are in office doing these things. We get offended at, like Josh Howerton, the other side, the political ideologies, and we think of it. And what happens is it trains us to do something else that Jesus spoke about significantly that I think is the bigger issue here. There's a bigger problem here, and I brought this verse before, but sometimes you got to say it 5 times for people to hear it once. Not you guys are sharp people, but there's a deeper issue going on. If this is spiritual warfare, and we don't wrestle with flesh and blood, so all this aggression and anger and all the stuff that we're seeing, what is God trying to reveal to us? It's happening in our day and age. This isn't about what eschatological position you have. Well, this is why I'm post-mill, because this is why I'm on-mill. This is why I'm historic pre-mill. This is why I believe in the rapture. That's where people go. It's not that it's not that serious. The Bible does not tell us to pick an eschatological and end times position, and that doesn't matter what you believe is going to happen at the end. But it does matter. When we tell you what matters is what Jesus said right here. Here's the only thing that matters. This right here. Listen to this. He's describing in context the end times for his disciples. And then he says this. I'm going to just read this in verse 9. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Verse 10. This is Matthew 24, verse 10. And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another, right? So he's saying that people will just fall away. He's talking about believers now. He's talking about Christians. When he says many will fall away, what are they falling away from? They're not falling away from humanity. Jesus is talking about people who once believed in him will fall away. They will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. Boy, have we not seen this happen. I mean, look at from calling people woke and social justice warrior and white supremacists. Oh, we've seen this happen, right? Brother will hate one another. And then listen, and many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. There's no false prophets that don't say anything. If you're a false prophet, in the Old Testament at least, the Old Testament, false prophets were people who proclaimed to be from God, representing what God said is true and teaching people falsehood. That's what a false prophet is. You're a prophet that says you represent God and you're explaining to people what God says. And Jesus is saying that many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. Do we not see that happening? And then he says this in verses 12 and 13. And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. Listen to what he's saying. This is Jesus' words, not mine. You don't have to take my interpretation of how you can do any. Ask your pastor. Go in Logos, look up the commentaries, go to ChatGPT, whatever, Claude, whoever you go to. He says, and because lawlessness will be increased. So Jesus is saying, because there will be more evil in the world that is seen. Right? So because lawlessness, because lawlessness is when people just don't care about what God's word says. You have sin, you miss the mark. Iniquity is just it's a deep corruption of the heart. Transgression is more willful disobedience. Like, I know this is sin, but I'm going to give in. Then you have lawlessness. I don't even care what God's law. He said, because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. Right? So the command to love your neighbor, Jesus says, it's going to grow cold. Right? And think about this. We would never have seen this video 30 years ago, 40 years ago. The only time we saw crazy videos, it was sporadic. Rodney King was like 1991 because someone happened to just have a big camcorder in their car and they videotaped it. But because we have access to so much technology, we can see evil. We see lawlessness all the time. And what's happening to you when you see people that are, what's happening? These are Jesus's words. Listen, don't let a view of grace make you think that you're allowed to. No, Jesus is saying the love of many will grow cold because we're seeing more evil. He said, we see more evil. It's hard. It's hard to love people. But here's the wild part. Here's the wild part. If you're more offended at people and the evil that you see, if you're conservative and you just hate people on the left, how evil they've gotten, or if you're on the left and you hate the right, think about this for a second. The person who sees all evil all the time is God. Do you think for a moment that when Jesus came, he came to a people that were loving? He came to a people that had rejected prophets for 700 years. God sees all the evil and says, I still love these people. So he doesn't release anyone who professes to believe in him from loving people despite the lawlessness that we see, because we never see the lawlessness as deeply as he does, and we never evaluate our own lawlessness. We got to hate our own lawlessness more than other people's. So Jesus is saying, look, the love of many will grow cold. But then he says this in verse 13, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. If you're a believer, here's what I think is happening. All this stuff is going to get worse. It's going to be more heightened. It's not because a political ideology is gaining foot. It's because the Lord is allowing the enemy to have an authority in this world, and he's using flesh and blood to make people, believers, grow cold and start to hate, be bitter, resentful, arrogant, self-righteous, judgmental, all the fruits of the flesh. And then we justify it because of their lawlessness, because of their evil. So here's a question. If you're a believer, here's a question you have to ask yourself and ask us honestly. If God loved you the way you love other people, what kind of God would he be? I've asked this before. It's a question that humbles me. If God loved people the way I do, would I want to serve him? Would I still have confidence in him? Would I love him? It's hard. It's hard. Jesus said, look, deny yourself, take up the cross. He said, look, the broad road is easy. The narrow road that leads to life is hard, and only a few find it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree. It's on you. You don't have to subscribe. I'm just talking to people. Look, Jesus said this, whoever has an ear to hear, let him hear. So I'm going to imitate the Savior. If you have an ear to hear, let him hear. This is not about Donald Trump, ICE, the left, their ideology. All those things are sort of like, they're the testing ground for, do you genuinely have a conviction to obey the scriptures even when it's hard to? Can you pray for ICE agents even when you think they're being lawless? Can you pray for people that vote differently than you? Can you serve people that are just evil? Jesus did it all the time, including for you and me. This is the real issue. Do not forget this verse. And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. I think we're going to see more evil. I'm not post-mill. I don't believe things will get better and the Lord's going to come back. I think we're going to see more evil. And there's a crazy reason why that I can't explain in this video, but I will do it in my next video, I think. We're going to see more evil because flesh and blood, and because we're being deceived. This is flesh and blood. I hate these people. How could you do this? How could you say, do this to an unborn child? You hate these people. Jesus didn't do that. Jesus didn't do that. Jesus said, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Jesus with the adulterous woman, he said, you had multiple husbands, but he was gracious with her. Went down and shared, John 4, right? Went down and shared the gospel in Samaria for 2 days and people believed. As hard as it is, we have to endure, continue to love people who are lawless, because that's what we were to God, and he saved us. He still loved us. And this is what's happening. It's easy. There are algorithms at work that are making you show the most vitriolic responses and videos, and then you just follow right into it. We just Pied Piper, just follow right into it, criticize people, slander people, and the whole time eternity's watching, waiting, and keeping note. And then the books will be opened, and you do not want God to say to you, you hated these people in your heart. Yeah, you never said it, but I didn't just look at what you said and did. I looked at how you felt, why you did things, why you said things. Please, if you're a believer, don't let the enemy deceive you. This is going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. This is not about flesh and blood. This is not ICE, Trump, J.D. Vance, Biden, Kamala Harris, the left. That's the world's war. Our war is underneath that. Here's the war for the Christian. Can I love the people that the world doesn't love? Can I love people that Satan hates? Why? Because God loves them. God is love. But what do I know? What do I know? See you when I see you.